Welcome to Rajasthan. Today is the day to ride the new Jawa Jawa and the Jawa 42. I'm calling it the Jawa Jawa because it's like Sunil, no surname. It's just too cool for school and it's just called the Jawa. That is the more expensive motorcycle of the two. That's about 1.66x showroom. That one's a little bit cheaper. That's 1.54x showroom Delhi. Bookings are now open. Deliveries will start soon. But what you need to know before we start the story is that both of these are prototypes. They are P1 prototypes. They're not production machines yet. And the production is yet to start. So the quality level that you see will actually go up further, which is a surprise because they're actually not badly made at all. Everything fits correctly. Nothing is shaken loose. They're very promising motorcycles. Now, underneath the skin, that's a new engine, 297cc. Technically, the displacement is same as the Mahindra Mojo, and that might lead a lot of people to tell you that that's actually just a Mojo engine with engine cases, but that's not actually the case. The specific output has changed, the way the engine is running in terms of the valve timings, all of that has changed, and it does create a very different feel because what Jawa wanted to do was create an engine that had very strong low and mid-range torque, and they have traded in the top end for it. So the motorcycle, 27 bhp, 28 Newton meters of torque, but when you open the throttle, there's a lot of thrust initially, but it tapers out and top speed will be in the 140 kilometers an hour region if you go flat out down the highway. But what you're really looking at is 125 kilometers an hour, and the highway cruise will be between 90 and 100 kmph. And at those speeds, there isn't really too much vibration. It's a nice smooth motorcycle. But what I think they've nailed is not the specification, it's the feel of the motorcycle. It feels light, it feels easy, and it feels properly old school. All three things that they said these motorcycles will feel like, and I think they've delivered. The other thing I really like is that the seat height is really low. So when you sit down, you get your feet down very easily. It's very much like an old school motorcycle in that sense. It's a flat seat. I actually like these kind of flat seats. They're quite hard to start with, but I think in the long run they work really well. But there are other people who disagree and think that these seats are not really the best, but I do actually like them. But the surprise really is the suspension, because when you do this, it feels like it's a really soft motorcycle, but when you start riding it, you realize that they've actually nailed it, because when you go over bumps, that kind of softness allows it to have a sort of like a plush ride quality. But when you hit a really big bump at speed, you realize it's not soft in the sense of wallowing or thumping through it or, bottoming out the suspension. That works really well for the Jawa. So to me, the highlight in terms of the dynamics is actually neither the handling nor the brakes. It's actually the suspension. But the brakes and the handling are both very nice too, because it leans into corners quite easily. It's easy to handle, and I'm not saying it's a great handler, I'm just saying it's an easy handler. So you don't really think about how you're going to go into a corner. It just sort of does it, and it does it really well. So the brakes are actually nice and strong, but you do have to remember that that has a drum brake at the back and a disc in the front, so the ABS only works on the front. We understand that a dual channel system is in development, but I don't think it'll be here before a year, year and a half maybe. So this is what you're going to buy, and you do buy basically a good setup. Now there are problems that I have with this motorcycle, and that's only from the perspective of how retro should a retro be. So if you look at the Royal Enfield Interceptor, for example, it's a retro, but it's a modern retro. They've taken the sensibilities and the technology and all of those things that we expect today and put that together into a package which you simultaneously perceive as modern and retro together. This motorcycle is hardcore retro, especially this one with the chrome and everything. And is it too specific perhaps? So what kind of customer will come and buy specifically something that looks actually like the old motorcycle? I don't know that that's a big audience. And on the other side, that's a lot less retro, the 42, but it's so close to this motorcycle that the variance between the two is really low. So I guess what I'm saying is I wish that motorcycle had slightly a different tank, maybe slightly different side panels, and therefore they've taken that motorcycle further away from what this one brings you. Because the other side, the difference is just the fact that that has a wider handlebar, so you sit in a slightly more, let's say, assertive riding position or a commanding riding position, and outside of that, the feel is almost exactly the same. But these motorcycles are prototypes. The final production versions will come. We'll road test them on Overdrive. This is 1.6 something X showroom. That is 1.54 something X showroom. So they're not expensive motorcycles. Obviously, the market is evolving really fast and there's a lot of competition that they will have to contend with. But I think as the brand goes, Classic Legends is off to a solid start with the Jawa Jawa and the Jawa 42.